This conference will now be recorded.
I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So I don't know where we were talking about. Eranda Tailam, yes. Yeah, in Vadashonida also we find a somewhat similar usage of Eranda Tailam as advised in this base reference. That is, Kshirena Eranda Tailam va prayogena pibennaraha bahudosho viregartham jirne kshiraudanashanaha. Kshirena Eranda Tailam va prayogena pibennaraha bahudosho viregartham jirne kshiraudanashanaha. Then another condition what we find here is Vardha Gulma Anilakabhan Udaram. In Udaram, when we search the Udara Chikilsidam or the practice of Udara Chikilsidam, we find Pai Tailam Erandam Samutram Sapayopiva. So here we find usage of Eranda Tailam with the usage of Virejana Aushatha as a combination of Mutram with the pious as well. Just mentioning, that's all. And then we find the list of some Dehadesham. Rukshobhau cha Kadi Guhya Koshta Prishtashrayau Jayed. Rukshobhau cha Kadi Guhya Koshta Prishtashrayau. So that areas, that Dehadeshas, Kadi, Guhyam, Koshtam, Prishtam. Here that Koshtam is again a non-specific. We cannot take it as the entire Koshtam, but more limited to or more centered to the Pakwashaya part of the Koshtam. So that Kadi, Guhya, Pakwashaya, Prishta. In these areas, Eranda Tailam has got a very specific affinity to relieve those areas of Ruk and Shobha. While reading this, we should remember the Lakshanas of Pakwashegada Vadakopam, because it suits to this context almost perfectly. Tatra Pakwashe Kruthaha Shulanaha Andrapujanam Malarodha Ashma Vardhma Arsha Triga Prishta Kadigraham Karotyadharakaeja Tamstan Krichran Ubadravan. That is the Pakwashegada Vadagopa Lakshana. Tatra Pakwashe Kruthaha Shulanaha Andrapujanam Malarodha Ashma Vardhma Arsha Triga Prishta Kadigraham Karotyadharakaeja Tamstan Krichran Ubadravan. So if taking these points into consideration, I am asked to prescribe one medicine which will be a perfect one for Pakwashegada Vadagopam. Taking all these things into consideration, obviously I will go for Eranda Tailam, because Eranda Tailam perfectly fits into this context. And that is why I came up with a lot of examples from different contexts of Chikilsa. And that usage of Eranda Tailam in conditions like Amavadam is very famous. Everybody knows that how this Eranda Tailam is extolled in the context of Amavada Chikilsa. Amavada Gajendrasya Sharira Vanagaminaha Ega Eva Nihandyashu Erandasneha Kesari. Don't take all these lines for granted in its perfect literary sense. Many of these bhalashrutis or metaphors used are for they are for generating some sort of an affinity towards this particular usage. Rojanartha bhalashruti. So they want it is some sort of a marketing, some sort of a propaganda. In the same way as we find the advertisements or that sort of propagandist activities in the media these days. Amavada Gajendrasya Sharira Vanagaminaha Ega Eva Nihandyashu Erandasneha Kesari. Fine, good. Anyway, it is very useful in such context. If at all you prefer to use or give some sort of a sneham, in spite of the presence of maybe a little bit of amam, obviously the first choice is Erandataila. Then this Erandataila has got many other usages. For this Virejana purpose, according to the specific sthanam, we make modified versions of Erandataila. Say for example, the Guggulu Tiktagam preparation is made in Erandataila, and it is known as Nimbamradadi Erandam. Nimbamradadi Erandam is a very famous yoga for Virejana as well as some specific external usages like putting talam on the head. Erandatailam, this Nimbamradadi Erandatailam is very famous. Then using that Sukumara Rasayana yoga, many a times it is made into an Erandatailam preparation, not including that Kritam or Gudam, everything. It is just prepared as an Erandatailam called Eranda Sukumaram or Sukumara Erandam, which has got excellent potential to bring about Vadanulomanam in Yonirogas. Nahi Vadadrude Yonir Validanam Pradushyadi. In that context, and considering the specific Dehadesham, Eranda Sukumaram is very famous. Then we have Gandharva Hastadi Erandam, which can be considered as a baseline Anulomana Dravyam for Vada Vyadhis. Somewhat neutral and specific baseline Vadanulomana Erandataila preparation is Gandharva Hastadi Erandataila. Then there are many other options. We tend to make some Erandatailam in some specific areas, like there is one Tailam called Tegaraja Tailam, which is prepared out of, it is a Tilataila preparation prepared out of Tegaraja Swarasam with Haritagi as Kalkam. This is generally used for Shiroabhyangam. It has got some capacity to control this Shwasavigaras. So this same thing, this Tegaraja Tailam is prepared as Tegaraja Eranda Tailam. Eranda Tailam prepared in Tegaraja Swarasam with Haritagi as Kalkam. This is used very effectively in Shwasa Vikaras for bringing out Anulomana, Virejana. And it is known as Tegaraja Erandam. Similarly, we have tried many Eranda preparations. Like that in Apachi, that Vajadi Tailam is advised. We have tried Eranda Tailam prepared out of this Vajadi Yogam. More than once I have tried it, and it is effective. Then another very famous Eranda preparation, Eranda Taila preparation is Sindhuara Erandam. Sindhuara Erandam is Eranda Tailam prepared in Sindhuara Swarasam. In our traditional Ayurvedic textbooks like Chikilsa Manjari, we find, or in Yoga Amrudam, we find the usage of Eranda Tailam mixed with the Sindhuara Swarasam, that is Nirgundi Swarasam, as a sharpshooter prescription for Kadigraham and Gridhrasi, especially Kadigraham. So later that preparation was evolved as a ready-to-use combination called Sindhuara Erandam or Nirgundi Erandam or something like that. So like this, there are many preparations. In Bala Chikilsa, we find many Eranda preparations, Eranda Taila preparations. It was a custom to give this Eranda Tailam on specific intervals to children to keep them healthy. And that was working very well. But this Eranda Taila usage is very notorious among the so-called scientific practitioners. They think about more about the ingredients in it than the toxicity that particular alkaloids is having, and they always fear about the threat of getting perforated intestines, getting perforated. Of course, when there is an ulcer, obviously purgation means perforation. There is every possibility, but in spite of all these odds, we can use this Eranda Tailam very effectively in our day-to-day practice. Only disadvantage could be the bad palatability, the bad taste, and it tends to come up reflux after consumption for a long time, and that is quite nauseating. So that sort of issues are there, but we used to overcome such difficulties either mixing it with the kshiram or mixing it with this Jambira Swarasam, then Ardraga Swarasam and Saindhavam in it, or you can mix it with the Gudam and give it, making it more palatable, and that also is an effective way. Regarding the usage, many a times these Eranda preparations will be added to Kashayams once in a day, maybe in the morning or so, or it will be mixed with this sort of other combination medicines like combination dravyas like Ardraga Swarasam or Jambira Swarasam or Kshiram, and will be given quite early in the morning, maybe 5 o'clock or so. Generally, it is not given at bedtime because it tends to create loose stools, maybe after some 2-3 hours. So obviously the sleep will be disturbed. So generally it is given either early in the morning or along with the morning kashaya. That is the way in which we use this Eranda Taila preparations. Of course, there may be different types of practices, different fashions of practices according to the local weather conditions and everything. So I think there are many, again, we can find many interesting references about Eranda Tailam, especially its Vadashamana property. One such reference is Eranda Tailam Krimidoshanashanam. In cases of Koshtakrimi in children, we used to give or apply Varti smeared with Eranda Tailam. Also in Vidbandham in children, we used to smear a Varti made out of this soap this washing soap and smear it with this Eranda Thailam and use it as a Bhalavarti, as a Gudavarti. That also is a very effective method to clear the Malabandha, Shagrad Bandha in small children, even in very small children. So it has got Krimi Doshanashanam, Vadamayakhanam, Sagalanga Shulahrit, Sagalanga Shulahrit, Kushtabaham, Swadu Rasayanottamam, Swadu Rasayanottamam, Pitta Prakopam, Kurudedi Deepanam, Pitta Prakopam Kurude. So that may be the reason why we find different usages of air and Thailam. Sometimes with Gomutram, where you have no fear of Pitta Gopam, whereas usage of air and Thailam with Kshiram, where you expect a potential Pitta Gopam. So such a documentation is there that it can cause Pitta Gopam. So this Rasayanatvam is explained here. One important point that we have to see at this point is the usage of air and Thailam as explained in the Udavarta Chikilsa of Charagam. In that Trimarmiya Chikilsa, in the Udavartam, we find a very elaborate usage of air and Thailam. And the Bhalashruti is also the way of usage, and also the Bhalashruti is quite interesting. I do not know whether it was there in the original Charaka Samhita or Agnivesha Samhita, because in the earlier portions of the text we don't find it. Maybe added on later. It is believed sometimes to be a prakshipta shloka by somebody else in the course of time. Anyway, that should be noticed in the 26th chapter of Charakam Chikilsita, Udavarta Chikilsa. The lines are like this: Gulmodara Bradhanarsha Plihodavarta Yoni Shukragade. I'll repeat. Gulmodara Bradhanarsha Plihodavarta Yoni Shukragade. Gade, Gadam is Vyadhi. Meda Kabha Samsrishte Marudarekteva Gadhecha. Marudarekta means Vadashonitam. Meda Kabha Samsrishte Marudarekteva Gadhe Avagadhe Gambhira Vadarektecha. Grudhrasi Pakshavadhadishu Virejanarheshu Vadarogeshu Vade Vibadhamarge Meda Kabha Pittarektena. So, Meda Kabha Pittarektena Vibadhamarge Vade. Interesting. Then, Payasa Mamsarasairva Tribhala Rasayusha Mutra Madiradibihi. You can use it with Payasa, Mamsarasaihi, Tribhala Rasayusha Mutra Madiradibihi. Lots of options. Doshanubandhayogad Prashastamerandajam Tailam. So you can choose according to the Doshanubandha. Tad Vadanutswabhavad, Tad Vadanutswabhavad, Samyogavashad Virejanacha Jayed, Medosrut Pitta Kabhonmisranila Rogajit Tasmad. Tad Vadanut Swabhavad. Swabhavad. Prakritya Tad Vadanut. And Samyogavashad Virejanad Cha Medosrut Pitta Kabhonmishra Anila Rogajit. Due to this Samyogas in different media and the virejana which it is going to bring about, it can be beneficial in Medosrut Pitta Kabhonmishra Anila Rogam. So we have a good list, which of course accommodates many of the avaranas as well. Then Bala Koshta Vyadhi Vashad A Panchapala Bhaven Matra A Panchapala up to Panchapalam, which is quite exhaustive, quite huge. If you take one palam as maybe 50 ml around, Panchapalam, you can give it up to 250 ml, 250 ml. That is the advice is. Mrudu Koshtalpa Balanam Sahabhojyam Tal Prayojyam Syad. So that is also a unique observation. If the person is a Mrudu Koshtha or Alpabala, then Sahabhojyam Tal Prayojyam. Sahabhojyam Tal Prayojyam. There are incidences of using this Erandatailam as Snehapanam. So this can be considered as such a unique situation. And this Sahabhojya Prayogam is also to be noticed. That can be beneficial sometimes. And this sort of this Visragandhida and this Aruchi, Arochakatvam, all these things can be cleared by properly done Murchanam. So we need not be scared of all these things. You can use it very beneficially. It is not that expensive also. So Balakoshta Vyadhi Vasad A Panchapala Bhaven Matra Mrudukoshta Alpa Balanam Sahabhojyam. Sahabhojyam means Sabhojyam Tat Prayojyam Syad. So you will find this extraordinary documentation of the usage of Erandatailam in Chikilsidam's 26th chapter, which is regarded as a Prakshipta shloka by most of the Vyakhyakas. Of course, the way in which that shloka is made, the style, the usage, the fashion, everything is not in tune with the standard usage of prose and text or whatever it is, what we find in Charaka Samhita as a whole. So obviously it could be a later addition, but it is quite informative. So I think with this we will conclude today's session. We had an interruption in between. I do not know why it was technical, beyond our limits. Anyway, with that we conclude Eranda Thailam also. We have a few more Thailam and then Madhya Vargam, Mutra Vargam remaining in this chapter. I think first I thought I will just rush through these shlokas because they are just information. But now I feel that we should be the way in which we are going right now should be the way in which we should go, because connecting these properties to the relevant application plane, that makes sense. Otherwise everything becomes nonsense. So with that I conclude. Vaidya Nilesh. Okay, I think there is one message from Nilesh. I think his connection is weak, so he cannot speak. So I think we will conclude.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Namaskar. I just wanted to know the Tilatailam is not advised for internal use, as it is a chakshush and rakta doshakar. But if we go through the traditional cooking methods from Kshema
Yes.
Kuthal or Bhojan Kutuhal, there are some preparations made in Tilataila. So I want to know. Yeah. Thank
That
you,
is
sir.
true. No doubt. There are many situations where all these things are going to be used on daily cooking as aharam. No doubt about it. And even say when we come to the Sarshapatailam, we will find that Sarshapatailam has got many negative attributes with it. But we all know that it is traditionally used for daily cooking in many parts of India. So there are multiple things to be considered. Number one, we list these dravyas according to their properties in an absolute sense. We have not put them into any particular desha or kala. But prayoga is always in the context of desha and kala. So there will be many things like this satmyam, oga satmyam especially, which is to be considered very seriously in the usage. In Kerala, where I am from, we use coconut oil very extensively. Hardly we will find a stuff in our kitchen which does not contain a bit of this coconut oil. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, you will find the extensive use of this tilatailam. So there is nothing wrong in it. The only point is that in Adura Vrittam, in Adura Avastha, when you have got a patient where he has got specific problem with the chakshus, the eye, and you are to select one sneham, better make tilatailam as the last option. So this information does not make a strong point that okay, this should be excluded at any cost from all sorts of daily usage. It is not like that. So there may be many other influences like desha satmyam, oga satmyam, ritu satmyam even, and all these things are to be considered while understanding this in an application plane. Clear? In the Northeast, I think we
Yes, sir.
find
Thank
this
you.
sarshapatailam used very extensively in their daily usage, daily cooking. So it is like this.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we will conclude today. Thank you very much and wish you all a very pleasant weekend. Namaste.